Hey there. Oh, cloggy throat. Happy days. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Down the hatch. Down the hatch means to swallow something in one gulp. Now, what the heck does that have to do with business? Where did this idiom come from? And why do I care when I'm doing all these crazy things that I've never had to do before to either keep my business going or to save my business or to figure out what I'm going to do next because my business is shut down or to keep up with the demand of all the crazy things that I'm having to do because my business is swamped right now. Each of us are in different situations, probably than we've ever been in our life before. Some people are in similar situations and things they've experienced before and they're rocking and rolling through it. Others of us are having to swallow in one gulp that our world is forever changed. And our businesses are impacted and need to be forever changed as well. This idiom is centuries old, and it of course comes from the time when people traveled by ship and everything went down the hatch. Anything that wasn't on deck was stored below deck, and there were hatches that people and cargo and everything went down through. And one probably drunken sailor at one time, they were doing shots or toasts or drinking out of the bottle, and they said down the hatch because it reminded him, swallowing in one gulp reminded him of, and I'm sure it was a him, not many women sailors back then. It reminded him of people in cargo going down a hatch when you took one sip because everything went down. So did the alcohol. I'm sure it was alcohol. And a new toast was born. Down the hatch became a very common saying, and at least as far back as the mid-1500s. So that's a long time. Now, I will admit I've used the expression down the hatch in many different situations. Some of them social, some of them family, some of them delivering bad news to people that I work with either in corporate America or in my businesses. To me, the expression down the hatch, it is not the same as down the drain, by the way. Some of us might be feeling like, oh my God, my business is going down the drain because we're shut down right now. Not so. That down the drain does not equal down the hatch. So how do you tie this to business? What does this have to do with our businesses? Well, a couple of things. Number one, at some point we need to swallow and accept the situation at hand. Many of us who have been in business for a while have experienced times and things and decisions and environmental changes and competition and stuff that has happened in our lives that has been in our businesses. It has been absolutely positively outside of our control. Legislation changes, labeling laws and things, that would be legislation, and things change. If you have a USDA or a regulated product, any type of regulation of your product or services, you know what I'm talking about. Things can change overnight, and all of a sudden your business needs to jump through hoops to adjust to and deal with that change. We don't just shut up our doors, we don't just shut her up, we don't quit, we figure it out. We roll with what happens in our environment and we figure out how to make it work for our business and for our customers, for the people that we serve. We swallow it, meaning we just accept it. We don't have to agree with it, right? Remember, in corporate America, there were always decisions that came from on high, came from the owners, that we needed to implement across the board that we didn't necessarily 100% agree with. We would get in alignment with those because we knew it was in the best interest of everybody's long term, making sure that we made some of these changes and choices and decisions. But it didn't always feel good in the short term, right? If you were doing something like changing someone's work schedule, that doesn't feel very good to that person, but maybe over the long haul, it's better for everybody. I remember implementing in, my first job out of college, we switched to a couple of things. We went to a team-based system, which, oh my God, that was novel and dramatic at the time. Everybody just wanted to do one job and get paid for their one job. And we instituted and put in place a pay-based system based on team skills and a skill-based system in a union shop where people got paid for the different skills and the abilities, and the more you brought to the organization, the more you got paid. So the more skills, and if you were mechanical, quality, electrical, whatever skills you had, or then production, you would get paid more money and you could earn more money. But that was a huge change. But overall, it was a much better change for the organization and for all of the people that ended up working in it, because they all ended up working together better, and they all ended up increasing their skills and their value and making more money and being rewarded in other ways. Same thing with time schedules. When you change people's time schedules, we did that too. We went to an alternate work schedule. Instead of working a southern swing shift rotation, which, if you know what that is, that's terrible. I had to work that for a year with my team. And it's 4 days on and all 3 shifts. And we switched from that to a 3-3-2 plan, which is 3 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 3 days off. I'm not going to explain the work schedules, but it gave people half the days of their year off working that schedule versus having 7 days a month off with varying times and shifting your work schedule all the time. So even though it was a hard change to make and it was a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, it was way better in the long run because they got 50% of their time back. And I think that's more valuable than any weird scheduling and shift scheduling. So there's sometimes decisions and things that we have to swallow that feel painful in the short term, but in the long term, we all ended up better off. That's, one of those down the hatch things. Sometimes we have to take our medicines and it's hard to swallow pills, but we know that the medicine is going to cure us and fix us and help us to feel better. If you've got kids, you know what I'm talking about. I'm trying to get kids to take medicine sometimes and swallow it and help them to understand. If you swallow it fast, it's a lot easier on you and it's a lot less yucky tasting than if you drag it out and do little sips of the medicine or whatever. So that's what I'm thinking about. We have to learn to accept the things that we can't change and then go to work immediately on the solutions and the things that we can do. I've said this, I don't know how many hundreds of times over the last few weeks. Do what you can with what you've got right now. Look toward what you want and how you want things to be and start creating that. Start getting creative, focusing on the solutions and finding ways to create things the way you want them to be. We've always had that ability, but most of us have never had the time or the energy left over after we're running through our lives to spend the energy and the time doing that. Now we're being forced to do that. So instead of feeling like you're being forced, use the time to make sure that you're creating what you want. Make sure that you're coming up with products and services and working with people that you want to work with. Make sure you're setting your life and your business and your world up the way you want it to be. It's a huge gift if we look for it in this situation, but we have to be willing to look for it. So that's my down the hatch idiom for today. I'd love to know if you've got any fun experiences with this. I've got some, I'm sure, stories I would never tell about shot drinking in college and down the hatch. I would love to hear it. I would love to know your experience with this expression. And if there's any other idioms that you would love to know the meaning of and how we might be able to tie it to not just our businesses, but our lives and the situation that we're all going through right now. Because I've had to make switches just like everybody else. Instead of just focusing on how do you grow and how do you build your business, a lot of the work I'm doing right now is how do you deal with the current situation? How do you make sure that you're going to survive? How do you go from being reactive to proactive and make sure that you are setting yourself up for success in the long term, not just making fear-based decisions. Somebody told me yesterday that fear is a terrible financial advisor, and I so agree. And we can talk about that another day. But have an awesome day. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow with another interesting idiom. What does it mean? Where does it come from? And how can you use it right now? Or how can you use it just to think differently about your situation right now? Take care.